Sure. Thanks, Olivia. I hope everyone had a really good Mother's Day weekend. I know it was a bit sunny, but also a bit cold. So hopefully we get a little bit more of the sun this week in Pittsburgh. In terms of health news, we saw around a 250,000 increases in cases nationwide last week, with around 14,000 more deaths. However, we can see that the number of increases, as shown in the graph below, the number of increases and new cases is decreasing or flattening. This might be in relation to the summer coming. It might be in relation to social distancing measures and just people getting a better sense of what's going on here. But in terms of positive news or additional positive news, antibody testing is ongoing, and some of the folks that actually do have contracted coronavirus might have those antibodies already built up. So there's science being done in those areas as well. In Michigan, which was particularly hard hit by the virus, numbers are decreasing there for cases. Negative news, we look to corollaries and adjacent states like New York. New York City has had over 250 city employees that have died as a result of coronavirus-related complications. California is also seeing an increase as well. So, even in Pennsylvania, as we start to see new stay-at-home orders change, staying inside and avoiding large gatherings protects not only you and your family, but also your communities as well. So I would just say, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. So keep that in mind as it relates to your health and your communities as well. Economic news. There has been, the April numbers were reported 20 million jobs lost. This was higher than the 8.7 million jobs that were lost in the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. And that was 10% unemployment back then. We're at 14.7 unemployed at a 14.7% unemployment rate currently. So unemployment is likely to persist until 2021, and a large number of jobs that have been impacted have been low-wage workers, as well as primarily women, primarily people of color who cannot work remotely, and also their health would be risked by continuing to work as well. So keep these things in mind, that the virus is not impacting our economy in equal ways. The Trump administration is eager to open the economy, which makes sense in the face of skyrocketing unemployment as well as economic stress. There's plenty of people without jobs, and this is part of the calculus of reopening. And then beyond that, I reported a couple of weeks ago that there was a House Oversight Committee that was being stood up as it relates to the coronavirus spending. The House Republicans last week announced that they would also be providing House members to participate on this committee, including Jim Jordan from Ohio. So on the next slide, getting a little bit more into state information, Pennsylvania has seen an increase of around 7,000 confirmed cases as of last week. However, this number is flattening, as we can see on the graph to the right as well. And we also see that though there was an increase of over 1,000 deaths last week, this number is starting to slow. News from Dr. Levine's office, Department of Health for Pennsylvania. The average age has been 79 years old for people who have died from coronavirus-related complications. Just over 2/3 of the deaths have been in nursing homes, personal care homes, and assisted living residences. There are 37,000 hospital beds in the Commonwealth, with around 7% being occupied by COVID-19 patients. So we're not seeing the same issues with hospital beds that other more densely populated states are. And then beyond that, just as a matter of scale for Allegheny County, which will be reopening, it will be changing to the yellow phase on Friday of this week. Allegheny County is not even within the top 10 of impacted counties within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So for a measure of that, Allegheny County has around 1,500 cases. Philadelphia has around 15,000 cases. So they've got about 10x more than this county does. Furthermore, just on going to the opening phase, that this will on Friday, with the result of 13 more counties opening, including Allegheny County, this will put every county but Beaver County in the yellow. Having said this, entertainment, shopping venues still will remain closed, but certain types of surgeries, as well as other healthcare, such as dentition, will slowly begin to open up. Furthermore, Governor Wolf and Attorney General Shapiro announced an executive order to stay foreclosures and evictions through July 10. I know a lot of folks on this call work with folks that do affordable housing and do other types of core housing issues. So I know that we're paying close attention to that. In terms of food access, the Wolf administration has been working closely with the U.S. Department of Agriculture on SNAP benefits to provide to students who are either on free meals or reduced price meals. And then it seems like last week, the pandemic unemployment assistance website, which we've talked about a couple of times here, has finally been open to contractors, gig workers, and self-employed folks for unemployment. I know there were a lot of challenges with the website in the previous weeks, but they seem like they've been cleared up. Allegheny County overall, 200 new cases as of since the last time that we talked, around an increase of 25 deaths. Just some items on the Port Authority. I know as people start to come back into work, the Port Authority reported yesterday that their 14th bus driver has been treated for COVID-19 or has been diagnosed with COVID-19. So there's ongoing temperature checks and other types of other types of measures that are taking place. And then for the final slide, just further considerations for the weeks to come. We're looking at what the next CARES Act looks like, the next COVID-19 legislation. You know, both parties really are navigating whether or not to push forward a partisan wish list versus a more moderate package. There's advantages to both approaches. Let's say moderates certainly do want a package that can demonstrate that they've signed off on something and they can demonstrate those wins at home. I think folks who are more progressive or more conservative, they really want to show that they've dug their heels in and stood up for a fight for some sweeping proposals as it relates to this legislation. Liability protections by industry, you know, this is something that the lobbyists are already visiting Washington. They never really left to engage with their lawmakers about what they want to see in the next COVID-19 legislation. And so, you know, for us as nonprofits and community-based organizations, we need to be doing the same thing. That is to say, you know, discussing what our contributions as nonprofits are in our economy, as well as our, you know, double bottom line impact, employees, financial and humanitarian impacts therein. So a lot of these critical discussions do take place, you know, here within GPNP. So we would encourage you to participate and get involved with, you know, our public policy committee that we host here with GPNP. And then, you know, some of the risk components that Ted talked about, you know, this is particularly important as we consider return to work. And a lot of us, you know, we've been working the whole time, so it's much less about returning to work and more about continuing to work and how we do that. So just ongoing considerations around teleworking where feasible, and then also following the guidelines from the Department of Environmental Protection as well as the Department of Health and Safety or health as we look at bringing people back into certain buildings. And then, you know, just as a reminder and as managing expectations that returning to normal will be anything but normal. So just continue to keep following best practices and best guidance, and look out for, you know, those around you. And then finally, you know, I did mention last week that it's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And so I want to encourage everyone to join a conversation tonight by welcoming Pittsburgh. It's on their Facebook page for this evening. It's a Monday discussion that's going on throughout the month of May, specifically on different topics important to people who are Asian American or people who know Asian American people. So tonight's discussion will have local and state officials from the AAPI community. So with that, I'll turn it back to the floor.